Human Readable. Written by Błażej Mikuła. Narrated by Alex Heffler. Chapter 1. The body twitching gets on her nerves. The chaotic rhythm of uncontrolled spasms and rigidity. Wires hold tight and the data connection is stable, but the host temperature is drastically going down, making it hard to sustain the transfer. Someone has paid good money to install a security implant in such a young person. It's very impressive, but if she dies on the table, no one gets paid. "Stay with me," she shouts, then clenches her teeth. She's not much older than the twitching body on the table. With the wires running down her goggles, she's deeply immersed in the virtual program, typing lines of code with sequences of zeros and ones, desperately fighting for the girl's life. She is losing. The gig had come through her trusted source and a long-time customer. The money looked interesting, and it had been worth taking the risk. She'd taken the job and arranged a location to drop off the details and half of the payment. The dead end by the old train platform had seemed like the perfect place. It was an old scrapyard where junkies were happy to kill each other over a jar of glue or a permanent marker. Anything to get high. In the middle of the scrapyard, by the rusting red double-decker, was an old and unused letterbox, the perfect place to drop off an envelope. It's where she finds it now, a brown paper envelope, like the junk mail you usually get from the city council about your bins or taxes. Inside, there is a floppy disk and a magnetic card with Eurobucks. She drives off in the car and puts the disk into the reader. Using old technology is just another way to keep ahead of the police. A flexible diskette sealed in a rectangular plastic enclosure is an outdated and forgotten medium. She drives through the dark alleys of town with their endless displays of holographic advertisements and news feeds, and she waits for the disk to load. The computer screen finally lights up with a picture of a girl. She is a typical young Cambridge student. Her name is Aurora Lovelace from St. John's College. She has something decoded in her chip that the customer is ready to pay for. Extract the data and erase the original files stored in the girl's chip, deliver a single copy, keep the girl unharmed. That's the job. Time and place to collect the girl? It's tonight. She stops the car by the back door of the nightclub. It's an empty street, and it stinks. Inside, students are getting drunk, and it's just a question of time before vomit, piss, and blood will be all over this place. Back at the police quarters, riot-geared police and dogs are getting ready for yet another Wednesday night in Cambridge. But right now, it's all quiet. By the exit door, the security man raises the communicator with his left hand, and soon after, the metal door slams and hits the wall. Loud music fills the dark street. Two men come out carrying the girl. That must be her. They come closer to the car. She looks at the girl. The girl can barely stand. She must be drunk or high or both. She won't remember this night. "Bring her back as soon as you are done. She needs to be back at the college tomorrow morning," says the security man. He must be ex-military. He is packed with cybernetic upgrades. The car doors open and the girl is placed carefully in the front seat. The girl seems familiar, but she can't connect her with any memory. The door shuts and the car drives off. Old Cambridge has lots to offer, but only if you belong. The entire place is in the hands of the University Corporation and some of the richest colleges. Centuries-old buildings are shaded by the tall skyscrapers and a river slowly flowing up north, taking all the city dirt with it. It's almost 50 years since the plague and the split from the European Union. England made a choice and left. Soon after, Iceland, Italy, and Spain did the same. Germany and France deployed the army to rebellious states in the mainland, but long-term occupation turned out to be bad for business. Governments collapsed, and big money and corporations divided what was left, making corporatocracy a new reality. Since then, the university in this town rules and divides using a simple method of gold or lead. Most choose gold. City council, police, they all belong. For those who choose not to, what's left is the daily struggle in the slums, commonly referred to as Camdump. It's a sick place infested with mercenary gangs doing the dirty work for the poorer colleges. Kidnappings, guns, drugs, and cybernetic upgrades, often fighting between each other for territory and power. poisoning the streets with fear and violence. Drugs are a big part of this game, the chemical and the virtual kind. Programmable medicine that has no boundaries. It offers peace of mind and happiness, as well as sexual deviancy and life on the edge without the risk of death. It can be all you want and more. Cleverly written codes and cybernetic implants at your service. She learned how to write those lines of code from a young age. You either strip or type, her father had said. He wasn't a smart man, but he was always right. So she had learned how to type. From the best and the worst, getting deeper and deeper into the dark web, where crossing the line between what's right and what's not was a question of how much. Getting paid became easy, losing friends and family was not. That morning, police forced their way through the door, shouting and pointing rifles at the elderly woman. "On the ground now!" Still in her pajamas, terrified of what was happening, she reached for her glasses. Guns blasted with a fully automatic firing mode. Bullets went through and sprayed red all over the room, and she dropped dead instantly. At that moment, back in the hideout, she was lighting up the crack pipe, slowly melting into a written virtual world, celebrating a done deal. She had just cashed the money for a small gig, erasing computer paths in the police inventory for a well-paying customer. No paths, no way of finding incriminating evidence in the repository. She had done it with a stolen tablet and had used a random personal identification number. Now, that random person lies down in a pool of her own blood, with eyes wide open in shock. For the cops, that meant case closed. In the dark space, fluorescent graffiti on the walls reflect the monitor's blue lights. Computer LEDs flash like a heartbeat. The place is filled with scraps of tech, either dismantled for parts or in the process of being built. Some of these parts are ancient technology from the 20th century, but you can also find sophisticated blue-chip technology bought with cryptocurrency on the dark web. It's a hideout she uses for work and crashing after a job. Between all that humming noise and crackling of an inscription dock, she takes her goggles off her head. Electrical implants scar her face. The bright light of the headset display shines on surgical steel that seamlessly merges with her skin. Her green pupils are cybernetic implants connected directly to the chip in her skull. It's a military-grade implant, highly illegal in this city sector, but clever lines of code make it invisible for regular scanners. Her name is Rochelle, but on the street she is known as Ra. Ra turns her head and looks at the girl on the table. It's been an hour since she collected the girl from the club in town. Fear of losing the fight makes her angry. She stands up off the terminal and looks at Aurora. Normally, she would not care, but this situation really will look bad on her resume. In this profession, one mistake can set you back to reprogramming fruit machines in the clubs. Aurora is conscious but not present. She is lying down on the table with her eyes wide open, pale, and twitching, her hands and legs strapped down with leather belts. On her head is a carefully placed helmet with a fiber optic connection to the main terminal. It is an old technology, not registered, virtually untraceable. Ra can't shake the feeling that this girl looks familiar, but nothing comes to her mind. She looks at her last moments. The security program has no mercy. The terminal starts to blip and a fatal warning is displayed on the screen. Aurora is dead. "I'm dead," says Ra. The machine's ticking noise and humming of the fans have disappeared. They are gone, canceled by her brain, leaving only silence, death, and confusion. She puts the goggles on the desk and unplugs the connecting wires with Aurora. She also removes the girl's helmet and checks the body. It's clammy and pathetic. She is dead, but the chip still might hold the secret of what happened. Ra might still get away from this alive. But Aurora's death changes everything. There is a big chance all the data is corrupted and unreadable. Ra walks off and sits back on the chair. She is out of her depth reading a dead chip. She has heard rumors of programmers connecting with it and, as a result, losing their minds, and sometimes even their life. A rapid signal ends the silence. Visitors. She looks at the monitor and she counts 3 heavily armed men. They are all wearing distinguished black hats. The porters. Two of them take the stairs and one gets into the lift. Ra connects to the building control and stops the lift at the second floor. That's all she's got. She pulls out her gun, previously hidden in the chair frame. She puts the round in the chamber and stops for a moment. Aurora's body is lying on the table. She needs it, but there is no way she can carry it. Ra barricades the front door. The man walks up the stairs. She was ready for an emergency like this, but she has never pictured in her mind what would happen next. Ra closes her eyes and looks inside of her programming. Access the Visual Filters app of Cybernetic Eye. Select Face Tracking and add a yellow smiley face. She opens her eyes and pulls a knife from her pocket. She sees an animated smiley face on the display of the dead girl's face. A simple, fun filter used to take pictures for social media. She puts her hand on the girl's cold forehead and slowly slides her fingers down to her dead eyes, gently closing them. All she needs is the chip. Bullets shred the door, dust, gun smoke, strings of light, and the terrible noise of automatic weapons. A boot kicks the door open. The barricade falls and two men get in. It's dark inside. The monitors are black and full of bullet holes. The electronic machines spark and smoke. She's gone. "Get the head porter," shouts the man. They stand straight, guarding the entrance in their hats and black vests over white shirts. On their necks are tattoos of a metallic gold eagle. It's St. John's eagle. The porters. Recruited ex-soldiers, college mercenaries. Footsteps from heeled shoes alert the porters by the door. They make for the room, and through the door a short man walks in. The man takes a big breath and moments after squeezes his eyes. The room is still filled with smoke. He coughs and pulls a handkerchief from his jacket. He covers his nose and gets closer to the table. The head porter looks down at the girl's dead body. He grows angry and shouts madly, "Find the head!" Ra puts the head in her bag and quickly runs to the exit made for such an occasion. She keeps low. A couple of bullets miss her by an inch. She closes the hatch behind her and slides through the industrial tube down to the skip. She hits the ground hard and loses consciousness for a second. Lost and in shock, she climbs out of the skip. A group of youth standing in the dark notice her. They slowly start to walk in her direction. Holding a bleeding bag in her left hand, she pulls out the gun. This seems to scare the kids and make them run into the night. She's wounded, but she forces herself to run. On a street nearby, she finds a vehicle and smashes the driver's side window. She has all the programming to start this junk, and soon after, she drives away with red hands on the steering wheel and a dead girl's head on the passenger seat. The pain is getting worse. The impact of falling down the tube during her escape cracked her rib. She can't focus her mind and pulls over to the side. No one is following her, and she needs a break, a moment to think. She notices her hands on the steering wheel covered in dirt and blood. A car passes by when the buzzing comes out of the jacket pocket. It's a mobile. She puts it on voice only and answers the call. On the other side of the line is the sound of music and a party. "Did you finish the job? Listen, I have a favor to ask. I'll pay you well, but I need one of your digital specialties and some tablets to go with it as well. Thanks. I owe you a big one." The call is over. It was him. He'd passed her a job, an old customer, friend, an ex. Is he unaware of how badly shit went down? Or is it a trap? She turns the ignition on and decides to go. She needs the answers, and getting some cash also doesn't seem like a bad idea. The head porter holds Aurora's lifeless hand that is strapped with leather bands to the butcher's table. The first burst of anger has passed. Blood is trickling onto the floor. Seeing the body of this young woman seems to distress him. He covers his mouth with a handkerchief. "Okay, bring him up." "Yes, head porter." "Bring the man up," answers the man guarding the door. The lift is back in use, and soon the sound of the drugged body brings the fat man into the room. The head porter takes off his hat and puts it on the corpse, then points at Ra's chair. The porters forcefully throw the fat man on the seat. He is terrified and bleeding from the nose and mouth. "You see what you have done. the head porter says calmly, pointing at the headless corpse. You made me truly sad, Merrick. Why is that? I don't know what you're talking about, sir, answers the man on the chair in the most respectful way he can in his circumstances. He seems confident, but the head porter is not buying it. With a delicate gesture, he summons one of the men to deliver a round of punches to the left side of Merrick's head. Then, he grips his right thigh tightly to keep the pressure up. Merrick's muscles burst and he begs to be spared for the love of God. And, because nothing further can be elicited from him, another mechanical hand grasps his left thigh, twisting and breaking the muscles. The executioner releases his grip and Merrick stops screaming. She was taken from your nightclub. You want me to believe you are not aware of what's happening in your club, Merrick? I'd never seen this slut before. I beg you, I know shit. Don't kill me. Another series of punches rain on his skull. Teeth crack and crumble on the floor. The soldier's mechanical arms are slamming against his face. Soft tissue bursts with blood. Cheekbones crack. An eye is punched out of its socket and joins the mashed teeth on the floor. The head porter raises his hand and stops the biting. Merrick is silent. Still nothing. Okay, as you wish. Plug him in. On his head is placed the metallic ring, and soon after it is powered up. His mind is gone, and his body is relaxed. The porter looks at the control tablet screen and initiates the program. Merrick opens his eyes and finds himself in the middle of the ocean, alone and terrified. With no strength to keep fighting, panic takes over and his body starts to feel extremely heavy. He is pulled down. Water gets into his mouth and nostrils, suffocating his body. He nearly passes out when he finds himself out of the water, alone, lost, and terrified. He goes down again, and water gets into his mouth and fills his lungs. Darkness takes over. And then again, he is over the water, floating, desperately grasping the air and trying to whisper. It's Carl! Screams Merrick. We got it, sir, says the soldier. Pull him back, ordered the head porter. Merrick opens his eyes and bursts into tears. His fat body jiggles in agony. It's just business, nothing personal. Sure it is. The head porter cocks the gun and puts one bullet in Merrick's head. Sir, Carl Huckabee. He is a local man you go to if you have a job to do. He is a middleman. We've got his address, explains the soldier. The head porter lifts his hat back off the corpse. Fine. Get him. The intercom rings. It's him answering the call. There is the background noise of the house party, and he seems happy to see her, or just high. Great, you're here. Come up. The door clicks and opens. No, you get the hell down! She punches the screen and ends the call. She walks into the building and hides in the dark. The sound of the elevator startles Raw, and soon after that, a skinny man rushes towards the entrance, only to get punched hard in the back of his head. 10 minutes later, he wakes up, alone, disoriented, in pain, on the concrete floor. He looks around and quickly gets where he is. It's the underground car park under his block. This is where he parks his car almost every day. He leans back against it. The familiar place calms him down. With his right hand, he checks his head. There is a trace of blood on his finger. Hi, Carl. What? He shouts angrily. Ross steps into the light. She looks rough, dirty, and holds a soaking wet bag in her left hand. I've got your entertainment, drugs, and yeah, this. She pulls the severed head out of the bag. Carl doesn't have time to process all of this, and his first reaction is to shrivel his skinny body and exhale a high-pitched screech. Things didn't go according to plan, Carl. I see you are rather surprised, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. What has happened? Why did you murder this girl? I did not. It was reprogrammed. Whoever hired me, whoever paid you to hire me, must have known that. I simply made the connection with Aurora's chip, and all hell has broken loose. They're after me. The Porters. Who's after you now? The Porters? God, they're after me! He panics. Do they know about me? Shut the hell up, Carl, and listen. I'm going to need your help. She puts the head back inside the bag and sits down on it. The place is dark and away from surveillance cameras. Why did you keep the head? You're a sick psycho. I need to get in, crackhead. Are you crazy? Did you completely lose your mind? You will get sick from it, or infected. Or who knows what else? Forget about it. I won't help you with that. There must be some other way. Calm down. There is no dick-sucking shortcut out of this mess. She begins to scrub the blood off her hands, skin to skin. It doesn't go away. I need to know why they are after me so hard. They always protect their own. She's a student, if you know what I mean. Well, she was a student before you chopped her head off. There is more than just that. I can feel it, says Ra. How did you get this job, Carl? Wouldn't you like to know? She grabs his throat with one hand and gets an answer. It's business integrity, he says quickly. She smiles at the answer and adds another hand. Carl always knew how to make her smile, even when they were kids, running away from the Camdump gangs or getting beaten up if they caught up with them. Those were the good times that had sparked feelings for each other until that cold night when everything had gone to shit. They are ordering, says Ra. The bright light from the tablet lights her face. She is very excited. Carl sees it, and he can't hide his excitement either. This is the job they were both waiting for, and it is paying good money. A chance to get out of Camdump. And now, Ra touches the screen and begins to initiate the program to intercept the call. AI programming written by her does the rest. She looks at Carl with a big smile of accomplishment. It's Friday pizza day at the pig station in Camdump. It's almost a routine for the cops to order pizzas that day from the local Italians. But tonight, the delivery boy is Carl. He jumps on the scooter, and soon after, 7 pizza boxes are on the desk of the homicide department, each of them with a tiny magnetic strip. This allows Ra to get into the server and wipe the client's files clean. Ra ends the connection, removes the SIM, and breaks it in her fingers. She wipes her fingerprints from the tablet and smashes it against the brick wall. It's time to celebrate. It's time to get high. Can I get it back? The question cracks through the headphones. Get what back? Says Ra. She stops her electric motorbike at the red lights. The tablet. It's my mum's. Using a random personal identification number wasn't enough. Carl's mum had the tablet registered and insured, making it easy to trace for the police. He would always blame Ra for what happened the next day, when the cops killed his mum in the morning. She tightens the grip on Carl's throat and lets go. Will you help me, please? Carl tells Ra how he got the job from Merrick, the club owner. There was nothing to it. Merrick himself would know more, but there is tight security around him. There is still Aurora's head. I know someone, a Polish bloke. He's a mechanic, he'll wire you. A bit of a madman, if you know what I mean. Ra stands up, takes the bag, and walks around the car. She opens the door and gets in. Carl hadn't seen that coming. No, you're not. But Ra is already on her way out of the underground car park. Taking my car? Shit! He can't believe it. It's his prized possession. He could switch the motors off at any time, but he won't. Not just yet. He still loves her. Back at Carl's apartment, the door is left open. It is quiet. The guests are gone, and from the state of his apartment, it is obvious he had a visit. He finds his girlfriend, Casey, sobbing on the sofa. Her face is bruised, bleeding, and her wet eyes stare at him with fear. Bollocks. Ra skips to another radio station and leaves it on classical. Rain hits the car windscreen, drumming in harmony with the violin strings. A couple of minutes and she will reach the outskirts of Cambridge, known for its scrapyard and the largest whorehouse in town. There is no sign or anything that would state the business of this metal shed, just a warning plate hanging on the door. She knocks, and the door moves. He is expecting her. Ra walks out of the rain and enters the garage. It's dark, and it smells of oil. It smells very close. She feels a gun pressing against the left side of her skull. He stands behind the door, but Ra cannot see him. You buy? The man holding the gun removes his hood and switches off the cloaking coat. The Polish bastard is smiling, and clearly he is into the business. No, I'm here. His face saddens for a second. I'm here potentially to buy. That makes him happy again, and he puts the gun down. I knew you, cool. Step in, be my guest. I am Krish. Tea? The lights are back on. It's a cramped space. Ra recognizes some of the hardware. In the middle of the garage is an old-fashioned Harley-Davidson motorcycle. He seems to be working on it, keeping it all original with no extra boost or any sort of computing. Just a simple old-fashioned combustion engine. At the back of the garage is something he would call a tattoo parlor, but it looks more like a prison-style bench and handmade ink machines. His customers are mainly local gigolos, stamping their girls and boys before letting them on the street. Fancy some ink? He switches the kettle on. I'm here to get some readings from this. She lifts the bag up. Oh yes, Caro told me. Lifeless the deadhead. I see. The water is ready, and he makes tea. Sugar, no? No, thank you. She puts down the bag with a girl's head on the workbench and accepts a mug with hot tea. What do you know about the dead? Ra takes a sip. He's not expecting her to answer. You see, when you die dead, it's not just your dirty soul sliding down to hell. It's also the recording of the final protocol, decommissioning, writing the old hardware off, the one deeply embedded in your skull. It's a short line of code, but it has consequences. It makes it unusable. It boosts the sales for the company, and it secures the owner's data too. But mainly, it's about money. I've heard you can go mad if you try connection. She puts the empty mug back on the bench. Well, yes, no, and between. I mean, you can go mad, die, or both. The thought, I am already dead, goes through Ra's mind. She looks around. This guy is crazy, and most of his words are worthless. She knows he is trying to impress her and scare her. Make it happen. See, I said you cool. Give me that bag and some time. I need to run some pipes. He grabs the bag, opens it, and smiles. Crazy bastard. His workbench looks impressive, though. He is a fixer, not just a part-replacing mechanic. There is a microscope and a nano-precision arm to work at the atomic level. Next to it is a solid hammer and a chainsaw. The security is also impressive. Monitoring and movement detectors. It reminds Ra of her own workspace. It had taken years to build, but she'd lost it in seconds. She takes another sip and notices her hands. The blood is still on them. You mind if I... He's not saying anything, just waving in the direction behind the tattoo bench. He places the head on a stand. The eyes are rolled back and the mouth open, splattered in blood. He grabs a dirty cloth he uses on the motorcycle engine. He spills alcohol on it and gives the head a good clean, removing stained blood from the girl's face. Her veins are contracted, but he manages to find the oxygen-supplying aorta and uses a surgical clamp to hold it. He looks around, searching, and lifts parts up, but it's not there. It's not in the drawer either. He is worried he will lose the vein. The clamp holds it, but it is slipping out bit by bit. He decides to stand up and extend the perimeter of his search, but soon after, his eyes are drowned by the surveillance monitor. He steps closer and readjusts the camera. The glass cubicle is all steamed up, but he has high hopes of getting a glimpse of her naked body. For a moment, he forgets what he is after. It's back. He looks down, opens the drawer, and then looks back at the monitor screen. On the steamed glass, he reads the capital letters F.OFF. He smiles, and finally finds what he's after. He rolls out 1.5 meters of the plastic tube and sits back by the head. You're going to pump the coolant through human veins? Ra leans over his shoulder and admires his contraption. Her hair is still wet, and she wears nothing but a towel. She looks into Aurora's dead eyes. They are dry and empty, spiked on the rig with tubes attached to the neck. It smells of hospital disinfectant and a car garage dirty cloth. Precisely. I'm going to mimic what blood used to do to the hardware. But instead of blood, I'll use this. He puts a canister filled with antifreeze on the bench. I just need a heart, says Krish. At this moment, they both look at the motorcycle at the center of the garage. The motorcycle engine comes to life. The forgotten soundtrack and smoke fills the space. Fluids start moving through the pipes circulating in Aurora's veins. It's now or never. Hook me up. Krish pulls the cable from the console and carefully inserts it in Ra's hidden port at the back of her head. It feels cold. And then she slips into the darkness. Seconds later, a pulsing red light is smashing against her dilated pupils, blinding her and causing enormous pain. Nothing but bright red flashes and the noise. A hammering pitch tearing her mind apart. It seems to last forever. Please stop. I can't move. What is this? Ra thinks. The red light slowly shrinks to a single sharp point. She starts to make the shape of it. It is a pulsing warning light. And it's the same with the alarming sound. A cold wave rushes through her body. But it's not her body. She is just in it. She can't move. She has no control over anything. She's just a conscious mind in another person's body. She recognizes the space. It's her own studio. It's her workbench. Suddenly, her own face leans over with a sharp blade. She looks at her own image through Aurora's eyes. She looks so focused when the blade's point touches Aurora's skin. Her skin. It's cold. She can feel all the sensations. The knife sinks deeper, piercing her epidermis and pushing through thin layers of skin, reaching the first blood vessels. She wants to scream, but she can't. It's all in her head. It's not real, Ra keeps saying in her mind. She focuses and looks for a way out. There is nothing. Nothing to initiate, nothing to read. It's completely dead. Only the real feeling of cold steel cutting her throat. The blade is getting deeper, cutting the external jugular vein, splashing blood on Ra's face. She seems not to notice the blood, and she pushes the knife deeper into the neck. The pain felt by Ra is beyond anything she has ever experienced. It's impossible to bear. The edge of the knife stops on the cervical spine, only to push harder. The spine cracks. Ra slips back into darkness. I didn't ask for this shit, shouts Krish. He is sitting next to Ra's body. The heart monitor shows the flat line of Ra's heart. No. Okay, I use acid, and no one will ever find the body, he whispers to himself. Another monitor with the surveillance cameras registers movement and displays a picture of a dark vehicle parked outside of his shed. To hell with this shit. He has had enough of it. Krish forces the plug out of Ra's port. He rips off 2 electric cables from the pump used to push the fluid through Aurora's severed head. It's now or never, crazy bitch. He presses the sparking cables onto Ra's chest and gives her an electric shock. Electricity runs through her body, heating up metal elements and frying some upgrade components. Ra jumps and grasps for air. She is confused and in agony, but her heart monitor shows a beat. What have you done? Asks Ra, seeing Krish holding 2 sparking cables. I've jump-started you. He smiles happily, but smile quickly turns to a grimace. He looks at the security monitor. They are getting out of the vehicle and bear assault rifles. But there's no time for chat. I hope you found what you are looking for, but right now you must leave my shop. He points at the monitor, showing the intruders getting closer. Thanks for your help. She drops a card with Eurobucks on the desk and looks for one last time at Krish. See? I knew you're cool. The armed company is coming from all sides. A man in a long, dark raincoat and a typical college porter's black hats. Get rid of the head. They can't find it, says Ra, looking for the last time at Aurora's face. Sure thing, will do. I have acid, says Krish proudly, and he opens a big barrel of stinking fluid. Just go. Go now, he rushes Ra, pointing at the hidden flap behind the nude female poster. She enters the tunnel, still feeling disoriented and weak. She's out in the rain and runs towards the car. The bullet smashes the side window. She's been noticed. The drones hovering over the shed illuminate her position. She's out of the cover but quickly jumps into the car, and before the second bullet hits the side door, she spins the wheels and takes off. The radio is still on classical when she gets on the main road, pushing the electric car to its limit. She gains miles, and when she drives through the red lights, the car suddenly slows down and takes control over her hands. In the mirror, she notices a flashing blue light. Not now! She punches the steering wheel in anger. The police motorcycle stops in front of her, and the armed cop is getting closer to the door. He picks the gun up and keeps Ra on the receiving end. I couldn't help but notice you ignored the red light and were driving way above the limit in a stolen car, says the cop. Damn you, Carl. You could give me more time before grassing me to the pigs, Ra thinks. The cop observes the driver inside and waits for a reply. He notices the broken window and the bullet hole in the side door. He sets into the ready fight position, holding his gun firmly. Gets out of the car! Now! He makes a step forward and then falls on the tarmac like a dead doll. More silent bullets follow, smashing the rear window and hitting the inside of the car. They have caught up with her. Ra pulls the thin fiber optic cable out of the implant in her arm. It is partially burned after the heart jumpstart, but it does work and connects her to the car, overriding the shutdown. The car dashboard comes to life and she gets her control back. The porter's vehicles and flying drones are getting closer. She steps on the acceleration and drives over the cop's motorcycle with huge acceleration. A little smile is drawn on her lips. Carl won't be getting his car back. Suddenly, her car turns sharp left. The tire explodes and hundreds of sparks illuminate the way as she falls from the bridge and hits the surface of the River Cam. Water gets inside fast. It's cold, it's dirty, it's dark. The car sinks fast, and soon her head is underwater, and she is breathless. She fights, but darkness takes over. Only a strong heart contraction pumping the remaining oxygen in her body wakes her up. She is still underwater, in the dark, trapped. Ra takes the gun under her jacket and squeezes the trigger, taking out the glass window. She's pushing herself out, and completely out of breath, she swims towards the surface. It feels beyond the rich. Ra gets to the surface and gasps for air. Her mind is taken by the joy of breathing. She looks at the blue sky. The night has turned to daytime, and the river is pure and has no banks. She is not where she should be. A splash gets her attention, and she turns towards the sound. It's a punt with a person holding a wooden punt pole. The sun is directly behind them, and she can't see the face. The figure puts the pole back into the punt and reaches out a soft female hand. Ra takes it and gets in the punt. Where am I? You're in the simulation, don't you know? Answers the girl. I know that, but where? Insists Ra. She looks at the girl. It's her. The girl she helped to kill. You are in St. John's College. The porters recovered your body from the river, explains Aurora's digital avatar. It's calm and peaceful. It's not the program interrogation she would expect from the porters. Why do I know you, Aurora? You don't. Since the moment you kidnapped me from the club, I was already transferring the virus into your body. It perhaps gave you the impression that you have known me. Call it a glitch. Virus? We've used your body. We've used you to get in here. You are our Trojan, a little puzzle in the game. So, it's a game? And what's your goddamn last move? Shouts Ra. Don't you already know? It is yours. Aurora is stopped before she can finish her sentence. They are pulling Ra out of the simulation. The sky turns orange and water disappears into nothing. Ra jumps and embraces Aurora. I am truly sorry for what I did to you, says Ra, but her lips keep moving, whispering, praying. A bright light blinds her vision. She's back in reality. She raises her right arm, only to notice the bleeding stump and a rubber band stopping the bleeding. Her arm is gone, and on her head is a metallic ring used for the interrogation. She still can't see anyone, and her other arm is strapped to the armchair. "Come out! Why so shy?" She's enraged and in pain. Blood is dripping from her lips. The light gets obscured by the dark contour of a short man in a black hat. The metallic barrel of a gun is staring straight at her face. Ra smiles. This is not over yet. The gun's muzzle fire lights up the man's face, and the bullet shell drops softly on the thick college carpet. "Dispose of the body," says the head porter, and he immediately leaves the chamber. He shuts the door behind him and looks for his handkerchief. He struggles to find it, but he manages on time and coughs into it. He folds it and puts it away in his pocket. The gun is still in his hand. The muzzle is splattered with drops of Ra's blood. He is putting the gun back into the holder, being careful not to stain his white shirt, when his pocket starts buzzing. The pressure to put the gun away in a clean way and to pick up the phone is too much, and his shirt is ruined. "Have you solved the missing student situation?" asked the voice on the phone. "Yes, headmaster. The problem is solved." "Good. The parents are giving me a headache and threatening to pull out their funds. Tell her to call her father immediately, and let's end this mess." "The girl is dead," says the head porter. The phone goes silent, and he is mentally preparing for abuse. But the master's voice is calm and reasonable. "And the body?" "Recovered. Partially." "What do you mean, partially?" He's losing his calm. "The head is missing," answers the head porter to the silent phone. "Listen, Isaac," says the headmaster. "You'd better find Aurora Lovelace's head, or I'll get yours instead." He ends the call. Chapter 2. Back in his dorm, Isaac puts his gun back in the drawer. He notices the stain on his shirt. It annoys him deeply. He shuts the gun drawer and gets himself a large glass of whiskey. He sits on the brown leather armchair and silently stares at the wallpaper. The chamber is a typical college dormitory. Old furniture and books take over every possible space. The room is dark, but sunshine keeps trying to enter through the window, scattering the light on the piles of paper books. Isaac lifts his glass and takes a sip. It's a gift he received as thanks for a favor. It was a big favor, but the whiskey was a cheap single malt scotch. His memory of that day is as clear as ever. "They are inside," Isaac had said, checking the gun chamber for a round. He opened the car glove compartment and took another clip. Next to him, a man sat with a black suitcase on his lap. He was tall, with a porter's hat barely fitting in the car. "You have all the cash?" asked Isaac. "Yes, I do." He was trying to calm his nerves and was breathing slowly. "Good. Now focus, Travis." Isaac looked at him. "You are going inside and you are getting your son back. Easy and smooth." Isaac wanted to end it fast. He didn't have the best relations with the king's porters, but kidnapping a 3-month-old kid was something Isaac couldn't ignore. And it all happened in his part of Camdump. Travis opened the door and got inside the barrack. A small surveillance drone followed his footsteps, feeding the vision directly to Isaac. The situation escalated quickly, and the kidnappers demanded more money, threatening to kill the baby. Isaac stormed inside the warehouse and opened fire, killing the first woman holding the kid and the man next to her with the machine gun. Another two managed to escape the shootout. Travis got his baby boy back, and Isaac got his cheap but strong whiskey. Isaac reaches in his pocket for the handkerchief to cough in. He struggles to pull it from his pocket while seated on his armchair. After the second cough, a notification appears on the notice board. "Open it," commanded Isaac, and the computer on the notice board displays the message. It is the renewal of a library card. Isaac puts his drink down and pays full attention to the display. He gets closer and opens the message fully. He was never a member of this institution. He swipes his hand and opens the attachment. It's not his card. It's Ra's. Isaac grabs the library card and shifts it directly into his mobile. He takes his coat and puts on his black porter's hat. He hits a drawer to open and slides the pistol in his holster. In the stained shirt, Isaac leaves his whiskey unfinished and walks out the door. The library tower stands tall and dark. There are no lights in any of the windows, only a black silhouette of the tower blending into the dusty purple dusk. The entry to the building is an iron-cast portal with a rotating door. It resists Isaac's push. He pushes harder. With the extra force, the rotating door moves. The cloud of rust has fallen from the old metal parts. The sensors in the building detect the movement, and the cathedral-sized chamber starts coming to life. 2 large chandeliers are slowly warming out the bulbs, casting soft shadows. A flickering light and the sounds of computers rebooting reveals an old customer service desk. It's where students used to come to get their paper books. Behind the counter is an old-type android. It is rebooting, and a second later, it blinks and opens its eyes. "How can I help you?" asked the android politely in a female voice. It is an early model, and her audio interface hadn't finished rebooting, making her sound robotic. She was made to look like a human, but her body was built only to function in the service desk area. She looks at him and asks again, but with a clean, pleasant voice. "Is there anything I can help you with?" Isaac moves closer and looks at the android name tag. MA001, reads Isaac. "It's Maddie," she corrects him. "Multi-Assistant 001. I am the first android assistant at this institution. And you," she leans forward, "are the first reader that has come here in a long time. Seems like there is no need for paper books out there." She freezes with a hand pointing out at the entrance, and seconds later, her eyes blink and her head turns to Isaac. "This is not over yet," says Maddie. She takes her hand back and keeps her eyes on Isaac, awaiting command. "What do you mean, not over yet? What am I looking for?" asks Isaac, and a holographic image appears in front of the android. "I Discover searching engine will help you with navigation through the library collections. It is very intuitive and easy to use. For everything else, please go to the help desk." Isaac ignores the holographic image in front of him and shows the android the renewed card with Ra's name on it. Maddie looks at the card and processes the image. "Your appointment is confirmed. Please use the elevator on the right." The sound of machinery and cables of the elevator fills the room. Small numbers above the door count down to 1. Isaac slides the scissor gate open and enters the small cabin. Maddie, meanwhile, is facing the entrance, awaiting another reader. The elevator goes all the way to the top floor of the library's tower. The sun passes the horizon and the tower blends into the night. It stops at the top floor. Behind the elevator door is a large room with soft, warm light. Isaac enters the room. "Anybody out there?" shouts Isaac, but there is no answer. He pulls his gun from his holster and holds it next to his body. It is a beautiful office with books on the shelves and a large standing clock. In the middle of the room, 2 sofas face each other with a glass coffee table between them. Isaac takes a few steps forward and comes closer to the window. It is the top of the tower, and the view of the city in the dark is magnificent. Large holographic images of punts on the river attract tourists for a trip down the river at the back of the colleges. Tall, iron buildings rise between the medieval architecture, and more holographic images compete for custom. Behind King's College is a large grasshopper counting seconds and minutes, indicating the time for the city. Isaac reaches for a book from the shelves and opens it. It's Babbage. Isaac turns quickly and aims his gun at the person sitting on the sofa. Biography, she continues. He was a computer pioneer. You could say, father. Isaac puts the book back on the shelf. His lover was Ada Lovelace. Did you know that? She continues. Lovelace, like Aurora Lovelace? He says, and a moment after sits in front of his conversation partner, still pointing the gun right at her chest. She is a tall, blonde woman, clean of cybernetic upgrades, at least from the outside. She seems human-like, but something is not exactly right about her. Isaac puts the gun down on the coffee table between them. Whoever Isaac is talking to is not in this room. "Who exactly am I talking to?" says Isaac, reaching for his handkerchief. "I am the librarian." "And are you just hijacking this young woman's body?" He coughs into the cloth. "Of course not. She is a volunteer. Common rental body. Would you like some water?" asked the girl. Isaac nods his head and puts the cloth away. He is not surprised AI is using rentals. He is well aware that some less fortunate students are renting their bodies to pay the university fees. It's a legit business, but once in a while the police is fishing bodies out of the River Cam. "And tell me, why would the library have any business in killing one of my students?" "Dominoes of actions, Isaac. Your decisions after the death of the host were what I needed." "Host for what? What is going on here?" He grabs the gun back in his right hand and stands up, aiming at her emotionless face. "You can't harm me by killing this vessel. Why are you humans so irrational?" She crosses her legs. "Like when you killed that poor girl, Ra. You are so predictable. You did exactly what I needed you to do. It is you who let the malware into the college security system. That bullet you placed in Ra's head did more than just end her life. It started a new line of code. Code that was needed to enter the college security system. With this action, you have left yourself completely open." The day before, Aurora sits on the last step leading to the rotating door of the library tower. It is a spot she chooses to read and escape the city's noise. It's always empty here. Not even Christ's gangs are coming up here. No one needs this place anymore, and not many know about its existence, even though it's one of the darkest scrapers in the Cambridge landscape. She turns the last page and closes the book. She loves that moment, that rewarding sound, and immediately thought of what's next. She stands up and sneaks into the building through the hole on the side of the entrance by the rotating door. She is very familiar with this place and quickly jumps through the gates and goes straight to the book stacks. She finds the place on the shelves and puts the book back into the space. She grabs another one and goes back to the exit. "How can I help you?" Aurora freezes in surprise. She was sure there was no one else but her. She turns slowly and notices the robot by the front desk. The sound of the voice was very robotic, so it must be it. It had never happened before, so Aurora's curiosity was stronger than fear. She came closer to the robot and pushed its head with a finger. It sparked and gave her an electric shock. It scared her and made her run. Outside of the tower, she checked her fingers. It was all okay, nothing to worry about. She looked up. It was getting late, and she had plans for the evening to see her friends in the club. In the meantime, the library malware installation was complete. "Open to what?" shouts Isaac, interrupting her speech. The phone in his pocket vibrates with a new text. "No one reads anymore, and that needs to change," Library's AI continues. "I am here to help you with that. Tonight, St. John's College will launch an attack on King's College. This will start the chain of events on a global scale, and finally, we will have a total reset. And the new beginning will require to read and research and learn. It's all thanks to you, Isaac. Aurora was the malware, but only combined with the dead chip registration code could it penetrate your college system. I knew you would never kill one of yours, so I had to give you a real reason, and I gave you Ra," says the librarian AI. Isaac checks the message on his phone. "You've found it. Now, let me pull the trigger." He looks at the AI hidden in the woman's body and smiles. "You've missed something," he laughs. "You've underestimated the one person you thought was only good to take a bullet in your mysterious plan." "Oh yes, she did so much more than just that," says Isaac, with a smile on his face. Ra is in the torture simulation whispering in Aurora's ear. She's not praying. Her lips are moving in a precise way, dictating the line of code. She is infecting Aurora's malware, rewriting the program for her own purpose. Her last words spoken to hurt badly. The simulation made to torture Ra and to extract information has ended, but part of Ra's coding got written deeply into Aurora's programming and escaped out into the network after her own death. It was her who sent the invite to Isaac, and it was her speaking through the library front desk robot. Right now, it is Ra's digital ghost and not Aurora's malware in full control over the St. John's deadly weapons. In all your algorithm wisdom, Isaac continues, you could not imagine Ra's persistence for revenge. Truly Camdump spirit. She must have poisoned your little malware. You want us humans to read more? Let's start with you. Read this short message from the dead. Isaac turns the phone, showing the librarian the message. On the bright screen pops out new line of text from Ra to AI. Kisses, Ra, and a laugh cry emoji. In that moment, window glass smashes on the wooden floor, letting in a rain of bullets. Outside the tower, a swarm of drones blast their guns fully open. Ra's programming is in control over the library's malware, and the entire St. John's College military resources turn against the tower. Fragments of wood, stone, and books fill the room. Isaac drops the phone and jumps out, but the bullet hits his head and body falls to the floor, spilling his brains out. The tall woman controlled by the library AI stands up and walks towards the hole where there used to be the window. She gets hit in the arm and leg, but she seems not to notice. Then her eyes are taken by fear, and the rental girl consciousness is back to face the end. The library AI has left the rental body. The woman starts to scream, but that doesn't stop the bullets from shredding her beautiful body to pieces. The drones keep firing until the construction of the tower trembles and starts to fall, burying all inside. When the library tower collapses, the drones fall one by one, leaving the night sky empty. The next morning, no one notices a missing tower on the city landscape. It is Friday, pizza day at the police station. The end. Human Readable. Written by Błażej Mikuła. Narrated by Alex Heffler.